us some tunes. Sonal, we're going to miss having these discussions. Let's take a look very quickly at all of the headlines first.
New data laws now aim at digital health. Is your health tech digitally fit? DPDP Act sets new rules for digital medicine. Our software may be smart, but is it really compliant? We talk about all those things that you need to know, and perhaps the government as well, on how to protect your health data.
And then up in space, Shubhanshu Shukla, what will he do during his 14 days there? Well, he took to the mic already to share a message for India. And this was a message in Hindi. He said his head felt heavy, but the tricolour on his shoulder reminded him that all Indians were with him. He says next 14 days are going to be amazing.
Also coming up on the show, a person of interest is Shashwat Singh. You've heard his songs, replayed it again and again, and now he is out with another single. So we thought we'll connect with him to understand what exactly is the kind of music that inspires him inside the process of a modern day musical mind.
And then Special Ops Season 2, Raw Agent Himmat Singh returns. Cybersecurity threats take the center stage with this season. And of course, the task breaks it all down.
India's Digital Personal Data Protection Act, the DPDP, has officially entered the chat, and healthcare software providers have some serious homework to do. The law is clear. It says if your app or platform handles personal health data, you need airtight consent systems, security protocols, and compliance tracking. No shortcuts and vague disclaimers. But the question is that really happening?
Platforms collecting personal medical data from test results or biometrics, they must now comply with strict data protection rules. The idea essentially is that consent can't be buried in heavy legal language. Privacy policies must be user first. They must be multilingual in a nation as vast as language rich as India. And the biggest question now is your software actually fit for purpose? So what already exists out there on our phones with our help apps, are they already ready? Or are they just hoping that none of us are going to read the fine print? To take a deeper dive today, we have two guests.
All right, so joining us on the program this morning, we've got Khushbu Jain, Managing Partner at ARC Legal, the author of widely circulated article breaking this all down as well. And also with us live in the Noida studio, we've got the cybersecurity and policy expert Kanishk Kaur back with us. Hi, good morning to both Kanishk and Khushbu. Khushbu, let me come to you first, since you've written in so much detail about this as well. Now, people seem to forget, or perhaps the story here is to understand that medical data needs different systems, checks and balances of its own. If we go back not too much in time, but just remember the leaks that have happened in the past. The Cowen app leak, the Star Alliance Insurance leak, AIMS data leak. And I remember this time because anybody could type your phone number and everything from your Aadhaar detail to the kind of ailments that you have, everything was available online. So what have we learned from that, and what does this act in its newest draft really promise?
Good morning. So, see, very right issue you have picked up, because we are literally living in the age of technology. And when we talk about technology, each and every technology deals with data. And that data is something which is very personal to you and me, and it has more information about you and me than probably you and me understand ourselves. So with data, it's so sensitive that if that data goes to somebody else, without your knowledge, without your permission, and has been utilized for the purposes for which it is not known, is something which has been very clearly now provided in the new act, which is the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, that your data, your ownership, if it's your ownership, you have a right to consent to that data. One cannot take your data without your clear consent. And when I talk about consent in the same act, the consent is no more those 20 pages of draft which is done by the lawyers, where you have so many provisos and so many hyperlinks that one doesn't understand. But a consent has to be very clearly defined in 22 languages, Indian languages, which are there in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. So, and that consent has to clearly tell me what data are you taking of mine as a company, as a software, and what purpose are you utilizing that data for, which all companies are you sharing that data with, for what all purposes. And in the criteria that I don't want to approve, what are my rights and how do I exercise my rights. So what are my rights are that I need to understand what all data is there with me. That is my number one right. My number two right is that I today have given you a consent, but tomorrow I feel I don't want to continue with my consent. Like for example, a wearable technology like a band or a ring that we wear, I am today consenting to each of my data to be utilized for maybe marketing purposes as well, advertising purpose as well. But tomorrow I realize, no, now I don't want to continue. I want absolute privacy in that. My data should not be utilized for any purpose then just the one which I am utilizing it. Therefore, I can recall my consent and I can exercise my right to erasure, that delete my entire data. So these are basic rights which are provided in the Act. Now, in the non-availability of these options by these companies, software companies, or these data fiduciaries, there is up to 50 crore of a penalty to each one of them for not providing me each of these options. No right to be forgotten, 50 crore penalty. Not providing you the option is number one. Second is not abiding by it, not fulfilling my right which I have been exercised. Now, these are the things which are there in the Act, that it is giving a ownership to the rightful owner of the data. Now, coming back to your direct point, which was that health data and all these data are very crucial. And if it is gone to somebody, one, we are talking about the aspect of using the data for the purpose that I'm not sharing. The second can be, it can be utilized for the purposes which are very hidden purposes. Like for example, a health data of mine are being shared with insurance companies. Now, insurance companies make tomorrow rely entirely on AI, and automated decisions happen that this much coverage or this health insurance should be provided basis on the sleep pattern and all other things which are there. Now our technologies are very high tech. They can actually predict, though they don't want to 100% claim, but they can predict everything when it comes to our health aspect. With that is where my insurance will not be given. Now think tomorrow if that data is being doctored or altered with, or there is something, my entire future of whether I should get that benefit, I will be discriminated. One, I will be discriminated. Second, I can be at the hands of technology where that data is gonna decide my future, and not a human which can see through that whether it is I'm a rightful.
Kushbu, just pause for a minute, because I think you've said a couple of things and we need to decode all
So
of that.
much,
But Toya has a question.
there's so much to ask over there. So we just, Kushbu, stay with us. Let's come over very quickly to Kanishk to understand more on this same story. Kanishk, tell our audiences, so India is a gold mine, a data gold mine for companies, as Kushbu is illustrating, because of the sheer size of our population and the potential that is available. But I just want to ask you, Kanishk, in the last few decades, have we actually seen an organization get punished when a data breach takes place? Even with jail time, with the fine, have we seen that happen? That's question one. And question two, with the new rules coming into place, who gets held responsible? Is that clear? So for example, if a hospital is taking my data, but the hospital is working with a third-party app, and they've worked in turn with software engineers, who gets held responsible? Is that clearer now, ascertaining?
See, so far it is not clear, and we have seen large data breaches happening, like the AIMS data breach which happened. You mentioned about Star Union, and no one was punished.
COVID as well? COVID app?
COVID as well, no one was punished. But with the new data protection law, there will be accountability and responsibility with whom the data lies. The consent would be obtained from the end users, and the sharing of data, where it is done, with whom it is done, they would have equal ownership. Now, if the data gets breached from a healthcare service provider or a pharma, they will be held liable and accountable, and there would be fines up to 250 crore rupees against these healthcare service providers or even third parties. So the responsibility is going to lie not just on one company, but also on companies who are sharing this data. So if it goes to a third party service provider, it could be an insurance company, and the insurance company is found to be leaking data because of lack of security controls, they would be held liable and responsible for it. Now the bigger concern comes in that a lot of this data today gets shared with third parties without letting the user know. Now, if this continues to happen, then the user is at the biggest risk, because he might have shared the information with the hospital, but it is a third-party app which is the hospital is using, maybe even for booking hospital appointments for doctors.
Which is generally the case.
Which is generally the case, and they might have not exercised stringent controls. So the companies which are part of the supply chain of the healthcare ecosystem will have to be made more responsible for it, and the onus has to be shifted on them. So the hospitals will end up doing is having stronger service level agreements with them, and also holding them liable and accountable for any kind of breach. So there would be further responsibility which would be there. If you look at the GDPR which is there in EU or the UK Data Protection Act, there are similar provisions which are there, and there is a lifetime through which you provide consent. So if you have given consent, it could be for a period of 1 year or 2 years, after which if you would want that to be extended, the company would contact you that we are processing your data and we will stop using it post this period. And if the user is okay, that period can be extended, the consent can be obtained.
So Kanishk, what you are saying, what Khushbu is saying, it seems to be boiling down. Everything seems to be boiling down on our consent. So let's talk about how that is even obtained today. For me, it's a very slippery slope because most of these apps, websites, wherever you go, you either give consent or you cannot use them at all. That's how they are built. Are we looking at some fundamental problems like that over here? And Khushbu, if you can tell us a little bit about it, because what is consent? How is a 14-year-old going to give consent? You talk about what are these fine details? If I don't say I accept to even booking an airline ticket today, I cannot process my ticket. That's the reality that we live in. So all these things are great. What you guys are talking about, the Act having sort of incorporated all of these is great, but have we defined what consent is and how it should be procured?
Okay, lovely. Consent, number one, starting with, it has to be taken from a person, a natural person. Now, when it is children, it has to be given by a local guardian or a parent. Now, in the absence of taking consent from parent or a local guardian and you're processing that data, there is a penalty which can go up to 100 crores. Now, coming back to the basic consent, if, as I said, it cannot be those 20 pages and 30 pages. It has to be very clearly defined what data, for what purpose, with what party, and what purpose, and how do I exercise my right. These are the basic things one needs, which should be 1-pager or a 2-pager or maximum a 3-pager of your privacy policy or a privacy notice. It should be in those languages which are provided in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. Now coming that, let's say with your example, that with an airline, if I book and I say I do not want to consent to it, I would not be able to book my tickets, which is very fair. But what happens is, this is where this law comes in place, that the data for which I don't want to consent, if that data is not directly linked to the services that that you are providing, I should have a right to deny providing my data for that. For example, if let's say there is an airline and I'm booking an international flight and they're asking for my passport details to be put in, if I do not provide those details, obviously it's a mandatory legal requirement to do it. Now, let's say I'm booking an airline and I say I want to go from Bombay and from Bombay have to take a London flight. I will have to provide those details, right? That I am traveling on this and this date. Without that, it would be impossible. But if, say, that airline app tells me that give me a location data of yours, give me an access to your browsing history, to cookies, and so on and so forth. I say I don't want to do it because I don't want to consent to it. So that's where I can deny, and they cannot force me to not give me services. Only a necessary information which is required for them to provide services to me is something for which I and you and me cannot deny as a user. But apart from this, anything else can be denied. Like, for example, a Uber app. If I have given a location at the time of booking of the Uber app, I have to provide. Tomorrow, I cannot say that I'm standing in this place and please come over. But let's say while I'm not using the app, I can always deny that I don't want to give access to my microphone. I don't want to give access to my location because I'm not using the app. So I don't want that app to be continuing to use my data. So information which is required, which is necessary for the purpose of providing me services. That's about it. Simple. And now, again, coming back, that it is tricky for you and me to understand and exercise it. That's where this act come in place. We had SDPI rules before that. We did come up with right to privacy, but for each and every small thing while you and me are booking app or trains or something else or buying and shopping, we cannot think of going to a lawyer or going to the court that, oh, my right has been infringed. That's where this law comes in place, while thinking of providing a data protection board where you can complain about it, and these things can be taken up, and a dedicated data protection board can look into it, can provide penalty not on data breach but also on non-compliance of these basic things which are there in the act, that is the consent and taking not abiding with request of data principles and so on and so forth.
Khushbu, understanding from you that there are a lot of green flags when it comes to what this act is proposing, but I want to come to you, Kanish, to understand the blind spots. You've gone through the act. What are the blind spots that still exist? You've made this US-UK comparison, but let's step away from them. Because often I think the UK isn't, or the US isn't, the ideal of the way in which we want to share our data. So stepping away from them, what are the blind spots according to you?
See, a lot of the information is collected by data aggregators. Now, if you go to a Airbnb and you booked a space to stay in Airbnb, Airbnb shares all of this information with third parties to show you ads that you're here. They would also show you ads with respect to places where you can eat food. Now, all of this information is collected and shared with so many service providers, and a lot of the tech platforms today are just aggregating data and selling adverts. Now, with the data protection law coming in, there is no detailing and clarity that when we are talking about consent, and Khushbu mentioned about variable consent, the consent will be obtained from each of those, and the categories would be clearly defined, right? Because companies like Google, they are just making money on India's AdWords. They just collect our information and then share it with so many service providers. And where all it will be used? Would they be tracking you? Would they be monitoring you? Now, we disable our location services, but we still get ads of places we should visit, right? Or let's take the example of Uber. Now, Uber also has a category called as Uber Eats. Now, if you are on Uber, will Uber stop sharing data with Uber Eats so that you don't get options of taking other Uber services? That is something which requires greater clarity and depth and finer print. It is the key aspect in the data protection bill, because the aggregating of the news has so much amount of aspects to it, like cookie tracking, where you're accessing your device from, where all you have traveled, travel history. That has to be clearly documented. Now, we are talking about a penalty up to 250 crore rupees, but we have not got details that what kind of fine will apply if this is not followed. Those are going to be the finer aspects, and taking consent against each of these aspects is going to be the critical aspect. Now, suppose you've given variable consent on certain set of services, but what kind of services would you still be able to continue to use if you deny taking certain aspects you believe could be invading your privacy? Those are aspects, I think, where the bill needs to do more groundwork to ensure that the privacy of the people are fundamentally safeguarded, and our data is not just sold to third-party service providers, because India has so much amount of metadata, and that is what most of the tech platforms are using right now.
Yeah, when the product is free, you are the product, right? You and I are the product, and that's what is happening. But, I really hope that the key here, it seems to be that we have to report, we have to complain about it. How many people even realize that their data is being used? It's a fraction of the kind of population that we have. So I think that also needs to shift in the focus. There has to be some kind of a monetary body which is sort of overseeing compliances. There has to be reports, and there have to be, some kind of, in a way in which it's ensured that these companies follow. It can't be just left to the end user. We already have enough in life to sort of deal with, as they say. But we leave it there for the moment. Thank you both for joining us. I think DPDP is a step in the right direction, but so many things yet to be addressed in that. We're hoping that the new draft will sort of get down to all of it. With that, we're going to slip into a very quick break. Coming up on the other side,
we have Shashwat Singh. He's going to be hitting a new note. He's going to be walking us through his musical process. He talks a little bit about what it's like to collaborate with A.R. Rahman, what it takes to craft a new tune. We see him on the other side.
Dangerously. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
I'm now joined by Congress MP Pramod Tiwari on this broadcast. Many thanks, Mr. Pramod Tiwari, for joining with us. आपका क्या पहला रिस्पॉन्स रहेगा जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने आज मन की बात में कहा है कि कहीं ना कहीं जो इमरजेंसी डिक्लेयर हुई थी 1975 में, वो ना सिर्फ डेमोक्रेसी को हर्ट करने के लिए था बट जुडिशरी को एक पपेट बनाने के लिए था?
मोदी जी से मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि वो इमरजेंसी जो डिक्लेयर हुई थी 75 में, उसके बाद 80, 85 तमाम पब्लिक मैंडेट आ चुके हैं और उसमें जनता ने एक निर्णय दे दिया है। किन परिस्थितियों में लाई गई थी, क्या हालात थे, वो कई बार स्पष्ट किया जा चुका है। वो संविधान के तहत लाई गई थी, पर आज जो अनडिक्लेयर्ड, मैं दोहरा दूं, अनडिक्लेयर्ड इमरजेंसी चालू है पिछले 11 साल से मोदी जी की, ईडी, सीबीआई, इनकम टैक्स और जुडिशरी को जिस तरीके से हर्ट करने की कोशिश की जा रही है, जिस तरीके से, मैं किसी के लिए नहीं कह रहा हूं, एक सेलेक्टिव मीडिया को एक खास विचारधारा के साथ चलने के लिए चलने को कहा जा रहा है, तो ये सब क्या है? और जहां तक मोदी जी का क्या अनुभव है, मोदी जी तो जैसे इमरजेंसी लगी थी अपना एब्सकॉन्ड कर गए थे, तो घूम रहे थे तमाम वेश बदल कर। इनको क्या मालूम अंदर क्या हो रहा था। फिर मैं दूसरी बात कहना चाहता हूं कि ये जो अनडिक्लेयर्ड इमरजेंसी है मोदी जी की, ये ज्यादा गैर कानूनी और ज्यादा भयावह है और संविधान को न मानने वाली, बल्कि मैं कहूंगा संविधान को क्रिपल करने वाली।
प्रमोद तिवारी जी, आपने कहा कि अनडिक्लेयर्ड इमरजेंसी जो है वो अब चालू है भारत में, और आपने ये भी कहा कि कहीं ना कहीं जो है एक डाइवर्जनल टैक्टिक है बीजेपी का। किस बात से डाइवर्ट करना चाहते हैं वो? आपको क्यों लगता है कि वो इमरजेंसी को याद क्यों करते हैं ऐसे?
देखिए, इनके पास जनता को याद दिलाने के लिए जो इनके वादे थे वो तो पूरे हुए नहीं। किसानों को दुगनी उपज का नहीं मिला, 15 लाख रुपए नहीं मिले, 2 करोड़ नौकरियां नहीं मिली, उसके हिसाब से तो 22 करोड़ नौकरियां हो जाती। जिस तरीके से ये बेच रहे हैं नेशनल एसेट्स को, पब्लिक एसेट्स को, जिस तरीके से आज लॉ एंड ऑर्डर खराब हो रही है, तो इन सब चीजों से ध्यान हटाने के लिए इमरजेंसी का, अरे इमरजेंसी 50 साल पहले लगी थी, खत्म हो गई, रिवोक हो गई, उसके बाद तमाम पब्लिक मैंडेट आ गए, तो उसे याद करने की वजह क्या है?
क्योंकि वो उनका ये कहना है कि 50 साल हो गए हैं, लोग भूल रहे हैं ऐसी चीज़ें, जो डार्केस्ट टाइम था भारत का उसको याद रखना चाहिए। इसीलिए आज जो भारत मन की बात में आपने देखा होगा, उन्होंने मोरारजी देसाई का भी टेप जो है उन्होंने चलाया। उन्होंने कहा कि कैसे जॉर्ज फर्नांडिस को चेन में रखा गया था, मीसा, सब पे जो भी आवाज़ उठाता था उन पे मीसा लगा दिया जाता था।
मैं फिर उनसे कह रहा हूँ, मोदी जी से, कि जो आज हालात हैं, कि जो उनके खिलाफ बोलता है, जो उनके खिलाफ लिखता है, जो उनके खिलाफ आवाज उठाता है, और नक्सलाइट बना दिया जाता है। जो पॉलिटिकली उनसे डिफरेंस करता है वो करप्ट बना दिया जाता है। और जितने करप्ट दूसरी साइड पे होते हैं, मैं महाराष्ट्र से शुरू करता हूँ, हर जगह कह सकता हूँ, मैं सिर्फ इतना कह सकता हूँ कि आज उन्होंने तो पूरी डिफिनीशन ही बदल दी है, पूरी परिभाषा ही बदल दी है। आज तो आईपीसी, सीआरपीसी, एविडेंस एक्ट, या जो एक्ट बनाए हैं वो सब पीछे हैं। मोदी जी का बनाया कानून चल रहा है। वो जिसको चाहते हैं उसे जेल भेज देते हैं और जिसको चाहते हैं वो मंत्री बना देते हैं। तो करप्शन की जो डिफिनीशन मोदी जी की है वो इमरजेंसी से कम नहीं।
All right. So the Congress party has been saying that this is an undeclared emergency. Many thanks, Mr. Pramod Tiwari, for joining with us and sharing your perspective. I'm also now joined by BJP's RP Singh on this broadcast. RP Singh, I hope that you must have heard what Congress MP Pramod Tiwari had to say. He says that, whatever happened 50 years back. But when we talk about today, there is an undeclared emergency by the BJP government is the big claim coming in.
Well, let me start with this undeclared emergency phobia. When they have moved.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Club. Next, we take you to our person of interest. And our person of interest this morning is the voice behind some of the most rewound songs. He's giving hits and given hits across Sanju, Love, Aajkal, Brahmastra, Shehzada. And he's had songs in Tamasha and now Metro, in Dino and Sugar Baby. His latest chart busters with none other than A.R. Rahman.
Now, he's a storyteller and a mood setter, as they say. Also represents the modern Indian singer. He's genre fluid, he's emotionally rich and always evolving. This morning on the Breakfast Club, we are joined by the very talented Shashwat Singh, and he's promised to sort of sing a few tunes for us as well. So let's bring him on. Hi, good morning, Shashwat. So lovely to have you here on TBC. Sugar Baby is bold, it's beautiful, it's such a vibe. But what was the first thing that hit you when A.R. Rahman sent you a scratch? Is this sort of a Mani Ratnam, Kamal Hassan, Rahman trifactor? How do you sort of even prep for something like that, since that's the latest one that you're out with?
Of course, no, it's such a legendary trio, you know, and every time they come together, they create magic. And when I heard Sugar Baby for the first time, it was very different from, you know, with A.R. sir, it's a very common thing. Whenever you are part of his music, it has a very different approach than most of the commercial stuff that is going on. So it was the same with Sugar Baby. Very different song, very different approach, very fresh. So I was really excited and, you know, to get the song right. And I have a small portion in the song, but really enjoyed being part of the process.
You're going to be doing a lot of singing for us today, we're hoping. Can you sing a little for us from that song?
Sugar baby, yeah, sugar baby, sugar baby, yeah, sugar baby. क्या चाहिए तुझको, क्या चाहिए तुझको. That's it. That's my portion there.
Nice. Can't wait to hear the rest of the song as well. But Shashwat, I have to ask you, you've called Rahman's song like escape-like a landscape. You know, it's vast, it's atmospheric. Can you perhaps walk us through what actually builds that magic? You're right when you say that there is a distinction to every time A.R. Rahman is involved with a song. What really makes it happen?
Okay, so but I think it's very situational with A.R. sir. It's according to the direction of the director, which is Mani Ratnam sir. So whatever he's showing on screen, I think there is absolutely no one else who presents a scene like A.R. sir does with his escaping, with the music that he creates around it. So it almost the songs almost sound like a background score, and suddenly it becomes a full-fledged song. So that's one magical thing about him. Yeah, that's why I call it the escape.
Is there a song in your discography that completely surprised you with how big it got?
Yeah, Wat, my first song from Tamasha, because for almost 5 years, people did not understand that song, and it suddenly got viral on Instagram in around 2019-20, and people still listen to it and they love it. But it happened after a while, right? Yeah. Because the song came out in 2015 and got noticed in 4 years later, 5 years later. So yeah, that was one song.
Hey, come on, you can't just talk about the song. You'll have to sort of jog our memories and refresh it for us as well.
चमक छोरिया से नयन वालड़ा वतु 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 बुलड़ा वतु 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 उड़त चिड़िया के हल्दी रगड़ के लगा वतु 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 लगा वतु 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 और ब्यूटी हमारी ड्यूटी तो पे लाइन मार के निभावत है छोड़ दिया ले सारा फत है खुद ही लिए ही आफत है तोहर पीछे सबसे हमरी जम के हो गई लाठ लठावत आवत आवत. There you go.
Wonderful.
Lovely, lovely.
Can we so we want to just shift focus slightly just to talk about greats who've existed in this space in the last few years. Someone who we miss so incredibly is KK for his contribution, just for what he brought to music, what he brought to sound. Tell us a little bit about what he meant to you personally, artistically. You know, you can sing it in tribute if you'd like.
Of course. I mean, I think he had the liveliest voice, right? And so powerful, yet so soulful. He had that dynamic range, and it was a huge range. And I think I've never met him, but every person who spoke about him said that he was such a nice, positive man. And I wish I could have met him, but he was a hero for me in the playback scenario. Especially, I think one of the most loved song, at least for me, the song that I love the most by KK is तड़प तड़प के इस दिल से आह निकलती रही मुझको सजा दी प्यार की ऐसा क्या गुनाह किया तो लुट गए हाँ लुट गए तो लुट गए हम तेरी मोहब्बत में. I think that's just brilliant the way he did it.
Yeah, and talking about KK, even Metro, some of his songs have been so iconic. I'll give you this opportunity to sort of, run those vocal cords one more time for us and take us through one of those songs from Metro.
There you go.
Gorgeous, beautiful number.
Tell us a little bit about what it was like to actually work on this song.
I mean, it's a very special song because the first time when I heard it, the melody really, it stuck with me for a while. And the surprising part was because we always, get the lyrics on a sheet of paper, we are supposed to write it down, or a WhatsApp message comes from the lyricist. But the vocal supervisor told me, please Google the lyrics. And I was like, okay, I'll Google it. And it already existed. So apparently the text, Kaisarul Jafri ji wrote this in 1964. That's 61 years now. And
wow.
It still makes so much sense. So it's a very special poetry. And Pritam Da has just created a phenomenal melody around it. So yeah, throughout the process, we did multiple recordings of this. It was very close to my heart every time I had to give a take for Zamana Reggae.
Nice. And it totally comes across. Shashwat, you've given your voice to so many actors, mainstream actors, from Ranveer Kapoor to, so many more. But I did read somewhere that you would love to sing for Shah Rukh Khan, right? That's the King Khan is a big dream. So if you had to freestyle sort of a one line imagining a Shah Rukh Khan track in your voice, what would that sound like?
एक सूरज निकला था कुछ पारा पिघला था एक आंधी आई थी जब दिल से आह निकली थी दिल से रे
Yeah, I can't get better than that for a Shah Rukh Khan song.
What a classic.
Yeah.
Okay, if we can just ask you now, let's go back to you. Let's ask you a little bit more about yourself. You've said that you think you are still walking the path. What does that mean? And does that mean it's a sound? Is it a feeling? Is it a moment you see yourself in?
I think music is a very big art form. It's bigger than all of us. The composers of the present time, the past time, and the singers now and then. It is a journey. And you don't know how long the journey lasts, right? Because you don't know how long it sticks to you. So I think it's a path that I have to walk, and I'm just very lucky that I've been chosen by the gods to walk this path, because so many people I know who used to love music, wanted to explore this side of life, but they are doing some other job. They still listen to music, but I'm lucky enough to still do it and walk this path and explore more and receive so much love from the audience. So yeah, I consider myself very, very lucky in that way.
And talking about your personal journey, Shashwat, who would you feel really lucky to be chasing as your next dream collab? Or is there one in mind already? You mentioned Vishal Bharadwaj somewhere. What kind of song would you like to create with him? Because like I said, your music, there is no genre really. You do indie, but you also do mainstream. You do really deep numbers, but really emotional heartbreaks as well. So what is it like for you? What is the dream one?
But yeah, there's just so much of, he's a pitara of amazing melodies and such a poetic approach to his melody making, and of course the lyrics that Gulzar Saab usually writes with him. It's one amazing song that I love is Pani Pani Re Khare Pani Re Naino mein tu bas ja Neende khali kar ja Pani Pani Re. So I think that's just brilliant. A little na 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 na. The way he connects that is just mind-blowing.
Yeah. This song haunts you, by the way. If you've heard it once, you can't unhear it. This is one of those classics.
I could hear you humming. It was very lovely. But yeah, tell us, Shashwat, let's ask you a bit of a fun question. You have 10 seconds pitching yourself to a global music director you've always wanted to work with. Maybe someone who does soundtracks like Hans Zimmer, maybe someone else. Who would you do it? How would you do it? To give us an example.
Hi, Mr. Pharrell. I'm Shashwat Singh. I have a little bit of following in India, and I have sung a few songs. So I will not disappoint you in the studio, but it'll be great if you give me a chance in your recording setup, and we can make some bangers together.
Hoping to make some bangers as well. Manifestation is the name of the game on the show as well. So finally, Shashwat, before we let you go, if there was one song that really defined who you were in life, not the voice behind a story, not the voice of an artist as well, but somebody, or one lyric, one song that really defines you, what would that be?
आज मैं ऊपर आसमां नीचे आज मैं आगे ज़माना है पीछे. Well, there's a zamana in that as well.
I think I'm going to take that up as a song for today's episode for me as well. Thank you so much, Shashwat, for joining us and sharing your lovely music with all of us, and good luck with the movie coming out.
All right, moving on from that, but we hope we've given you a gorgeous musical start now for the rest of your day. We're going to take you to stories that are taking place in India and across the world. First, the Delhi government set to conduct its first trial of artificial rain through cloud seeding between July 4th and 11th. The aim of this initiative is to reduce air pollution. IIT Kanpur will be in charge of the technical operations for this project. The government has secured permission from the DGCA, plans to induce rain whenever weather conditions are favourable. This trial is estimated to be costing approximately 3.21 crore rupees, and each trial will last for 90 minutes. It will involve spraying a mixture of nanoparticles and salt from an aircraft above.
And staying with rains, this time the actual one, the National Capital Region and its adjoining NCR region finally welcomed the monsoon with light showers, bringing much needed relief from the prolonged heat and humidity. The rain-laden clouds also marked the arrival of the southwestern monsoon's journey across the entire country 9 days earlier than expected. That is on the 8th of July is when we were expected it, but monsoon is here clearly. The Indian Meteorological Department also said and confirmed that monsoon has officially covered the entire India, and by 29th of June, 9 days ahead of expected schedule.
And train users who often struggle to book tickets will soon find relief, as the IRCTC is planning to modernize its reservation system. By December, it will increase the booking capacity by 5 times. The Railway Ministry announced this on Sunday. New passenger reservations will essentially facilitate over 1.5 lakh ticket bookings per minute compared to the current rate. So that's about 32,000 per minute. And this change, very, very excited for it. The Centre for Railway Information Systems has been developing the project for the past few months. According to the Ministry, the upgraded PRS design is agile, flexible and scalable.
Bollywood superstar Deepika Padukone couldn't contain her admiration for Brad Pitt following the global release of the much-anticipated racing film F1. With that post, which basically said, if you know, you know, she went on to say that Brad Pitt, that is the post. It was to share a playful tribute to Pitt by simply writing those words. In a cheeky declaration, Deepika also joined millions of fans around the world in sort of swooning over the 60-year-old Hollywood icon's performance in the comeback Formula One driver movie.
Young Indian shuttlers Tanvi Sharma and Ayush Shetty through to the finals of the US Open badminton tournament. This is part of the BWF Super 300 series. Tanvi is just 16 and unseeded, beaten 7th seed Polina Borova of Ukraine in straight games. The scores were 21-14, 21-16. The match lasted 34 minutes. This is Tanvi's second career win over Borova.
Now, this news really captured all Beyonce fans and had them really tilted in their own seats, as what started as a regular concert night in Houston quickly turned into a tense moment when Beyonce got stuck mid-air during her performance. The singer was performing 16 carriages while sitting on the flying car prop that suddenly tilted, leaving her dangling and holding on tightly. Fans were shocked as the car swayed. Beyonce tried to stay balanced, called out on the mic, "Stop, stop, stop." The crowd then began shouting and asking the crew to help her immediately. Despite the scary situation, she kept her cool. She was seen smiling nervously while gripping the edge of the tilted car.
Crazy. Man, you the tweet, bro.
Absolutely terrifying. Selena Gomez, we're shifting focus, has hinted at her return as the much-loved Alex Russo in the Wizards of Waverly Place, but this is going to be Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. In a recent Instagram story, she shared a photo of herself on set holding Alex's signature wand, captioning it, "Just feels right." Disney has confirmed her guest appearance in the new season. Exciting times ahead for her OG fans.
All right, let's move on from that and talk about everything that's been happening with the Axiom mission. Now, India makes history as the group captain, Shubhanshu Shukla, has docked on ISS aboard the SpaceX Dragon.
Shashi Chaudhary from News18.com. She's been bringing us all the updates in the last few days. She tells us about why these next 14 days are so important, what he's going to be doing on board. Take a look.
be amongst the few who have got the chance to see the Earth from a vantage point. It has been a wonderful ride.
The long wait is finally over. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla has become the first Indian astronaut to visit the International Space Station, marking a historic milestone for the country. After a flawless liftoff from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida on June 25th, the SpaceX Dragon successfully docked with the ISS 28 hours later, completing a critical phase with precision. With this achievement, Shukla becomes astronaut number 634, a numerical testament to the exclusive league of spacefarers, the special ones who get to see the beautiful Earth from a vantage point. But for India, the moment is deeply symbolic and proud. From a young boy in Lucknow who grew up reading about cosmonaut Rakesh Sharma in school textbooks like many of us, and his unforgettable words, Sare Jahan Se Acha, spoken from the space in 1984, echoing the timeless verse by poet Muhammad Iqbal, to soaring through the skies as a fighter pilot in the Indian Air Force, and now carrying the tricolour on his shoulders and making India's debut at the International Space Station, Shukla's journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. He knows he carries the hopes of over 1 billion Indians on a mission backed by ISRO's 550 crore investment, a vital stepping stone towards India's bigger goal, Gaganyaan. Confident and composed, Shukla seemed unfazed by the effects of microgravity, even as he admitted, "The head feels a little heavy." Visuals assured him effortlessly floating aboard the ISS, smiling as he greeted the 7 astronauts already on board. "Namaskar, my dear countrymen, what a ride. We are back in space again after 41 years, he declared. So what next? Over the next 14 days, the 4 crew members, including Peggy Whitson, Group Captain Shukla, Slavos Ozanki and Thibaut Kapoor, will carry nearly 60 experiments from 31 countries. Shukla will focus on the 7 he has been given by ISRO. He's no scientist, but astronauts are trained to conduct experiments in space. He'll study the growth of edible microalgae, the tiny nutrient-rich organisms that could be a future food source for long-term space missions, as well as photosynthetic cyanobacteria that could one day improve the future life support systems for our astronauts. He'll also collect data monitoring muscle dysfunction in space, cognitive impact of computer screens on astronauts, which will help us design user-friendly spacecraft computers. The experiments also involve the study of tardigrades, tiny creatures, to understand how they survive the extreme conditions in microgravity. Interestingly, ISRO is also exploring the potential of growing crops in space to ensure a reliable food source for future astronauts. This will be done by germination and growth of crop seeds in microgravity and examining their effects on the genes over multiple generations. Now, since the mission was delayed for almost 3 weeks, there's a bit of a concern on how many of these experiments are still viable. So we spoke to scientists and they told us that most of the microbial samples can normally withstand delays if stored under proper conditions. But the ones carrying pre-cultured stem cells have a limited viability window, typically 3 to 8 days, after which they have to be discarded and fresh samples are needed. Now, in the days ahead, we'll learn much more about the mission and its milestones. But before the scientific work begins, the Axiom crew will receive a comprehensive briefing on the ISS, its current systems, experiments, and ongoing operations. With 7 astronauts already on board, the arrival of the 4-member Axiom crew brings the total crew on the ISS to 11. There are also plans for live interactive sessions on the ISS as it passes over ground-based tracking centers and establishes communication links. One of the highlights will be Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla's interaction with school students back home, a moment that promises to inspire the next generation of spacefarers. Who knows, it may just spark the dream in one young mind to become India's next astronaut. The schedule is packed and the excitement is just beginning. We'll keep bringing you updates as they unfold. Until then, look up. You might just spot the ISS gliding through the night sky as it orbits the Earth like a bright, fast-moving star.
All right, and the much-anticipated second season of Neeraj Pandey's acclaimed action thriller Special Ops is set to premiere on Jio Hotstar on July 11th. The series continues to follow the relentless raw agent Himmat Singh, portrayed by the ever-versatile KK Menon, as he faces a new high-stakes mission centered around the growing threat of global cybersecurity breaches.
Now, this season delves deeper into the shadowy world of cyber warfare, highlighting the complex challenges intelligence agencies face in this digital age. Ahead of the release, CNN News 18 Shosha, we sat down with KK Menon and Vinay Pathak and the director of the series as well to discuss the evolution of a franchise like Special Ops, which has gone into several seasons. Here's an excerpt.
First things first, the trailer looks fantastic, like I was saying. People are talking about it, which I think is really good. To start off, to the captain of the ship, was there always a plan to create a franchise out of Special Ops?
Absolutely. I mean, that was why we do seasons, right? I mean, that's the nature of the format, and that's what we wanted to do with Special Ops, the franchisee, right from day zero. When we did the season 1, we were very clear about the fact that if it gets embraced by the audience, there should be a clear-cut route that we'll take in terms of the storytelling. We disrupted that route. That's a
with 1.5.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea was always to convert it into a franchise.
Right. So will there be Special Ops 2.5?
Not 2.5. Yeah. No,
not that. Directly 3, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Great. The subject is very, very interesting and I think relevant. It talks about the dangers of AI, cyber attacks, of course. थोड़ा सा बताइए उसके बारे में. What is your thought on this? Off late, by the way, I think this was last month, India saw an increased surge in cyber attacks. So, of course, it comes at a very relevant time. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, if you're asking me the question that you should pose to the writer, I'll definitely take that question. I think rightly so. No? I mean, if it's such a current and hot topic,
right,
and if he's been able to weave such a wonderful story around it, I think it's great. It's a great fodder for writers, for storytellers, because somewhere our stories are coming out of the time and space that we're living in.
Right. Anything you want to add?
That's it. Perfect.
No, you don't want to add anything?
No.
Okay.
You summed it up beautifully.
You summed it up pretty well.
You summed it up really well, and there's no need for a post.
I'm the night watchman. उधर ही रोक के रखने का. इसके आगे innings नहीं बढ़ेगी.
But then a lot of people are saying what took almost 5 years to come up with the second season. I'm sure the writing takes time. Beach mein there was 1.5 also.
Yeah, there was 1.5 and I think it didn't last 6-8 months was because of the merger that had not happened. So we were waiting for that, and now that's fallen in place. This one's coming out as a flagship program.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
I'm now joined by Congress MP Pramod Tiwari on this broadcast. Many thanks, Mr. Pramod Tiwari, for joining with us. आपका क्या पहला रिस्पॉन्स रहेगा जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने आज मन की बात में कहा है कि कहीं ना कहीं जो इमरजेंसी डिक्लेयर हुई थी 1975 में, वो ना सिर्फ डेमोक्रेसी को हर्ट करने के लिए था, बट जुडिशरी को एक पपेट बनाने के लिए था?
मोदी जी से मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा कि वो इमरजेंसी जो डिक्लेयर हुई थी 75 में, उसके बाद 80, 85 तमाम पब्लिक मैंडेट आ चुके हैं और उसमें जनता ने एक निर्णय दे दिया है. किन परिस्थितियों में लाई गई थी, क्या हालात थे, वो कई बार स्पष्ट किया जा चुका है. वो संविधान के तहत लाई गई थी, पर आज जो अनडिक्लेयर्ड, मैं दोहरा दूं, अनडिक्लेयर्ड इमरजेंसी चालू है पिछले 11 साल से मोदी जी की, ईडी, सीबीआई, इनकम टैक्स, और जुडिशरी को जिस तरीके से हर्ट करने की कोशिश की जा रही है, जिस तरीके से, मैं किसी के लिए नहीं कह रहा हूं, एक सेलेक्टिव मीडिया को एक खास विचारधारा के साथ चलने के लिए चलने को कहा जा रहा है, तो ये सब क्या है? और जहां तक मोदी जी का क्या अनुभव है, मोदी जी तो जैसे इमरजेंसी लगी थी अपना एब्सकॉन्ड कर गए थे, तो घूम रहे थे तमाम वेश बदल कर। इनको क्या मालूम अंदर क्या हो रहा था। फिर मैं दूसरी बात कहना चाहता हूं कि ये जो अनडिक्लेयर्ड इमरजेंसी है मोदी जी की, ये ज्यादा गैर कानूनी और ज्यादा भयावह है और संविधान को न मानने वाली, बल्कि मैं कहूंगा संविधान को क्रिपल करने वाली।
Welcome back. You're with the Breakfast Club, and it's time to bring you a special segment on financial markets powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. Let's start with how markets are picked to open this Monday morning. GIFT Nifty trends indicate a strong opening for the Indian equity markets today. Asian shares were trading higher on hopes of more Fed rate cuts and cooling off the geopolitical tensions. US equities, meanwhile, ended up as a series of economic data fueled hopes for more Fed rate cuts. Crude oil prices were firm as fuel demand in the US offset benefits of cooling Middle East tension.
All right, let's take a look at a sector in specific. Tariff talks have roiled the textile industry, especially as a large percentage of Indian textile exports are to the US. The India-UK FTA, that's the free trade agreement, it comes as a respite by eliminating the earlier 10 to 12% duty disadvantage. UK FTA places India on equal footing with peers like Bangladesh and Vietnam. Potential India-Europe FTAs could provide a further upside for Indian textiles. You can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about the Indian textile sector and various other actionable insights on the market. It's the premier destination for all investing views and financial insights you'll ever need. Brought to you by Money Control.
All right, with that, it's time to say goodbye for one final time for me here at the Breakfast Club. For over a year now, it's been an absolute delight to bring this show to you, to curate a program that was designed to talk about things that matter to you, things that are real, things that are relevant, things that bring a smile. We've had some really interesting content pieces like keeping up with AI, what next with music, what to eat right, what's the latest in health tech. And we really hope, I really hope I've managed to sort of do justice to your time right when you're starting the day. I've brought up this show just like my own baby, actually just around the time when I had my own baby, but it's time now to cut that umbilical cord and move on. Here's hoping that the show will go on, here's hoping that the legacy will go on, but perhaps my time here is up. I'll see you again at a different time, at a different platform maybe, but until then, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the feedback you have given. It's really helped shape our thinking of what is it that keeps viewer first. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Brought to you by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
I'm now joined by Congress MP Pramod Tiwari on this broadcast. Many thanks, Mr. Pramod Tiwari, for joining with us. आपका क्या पहला रिस्पांस रहेगा जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने आज मन की बात में कहा है कि कहीं ना कहीं जो इमरजेंसी डिक्लेयर हुई थी 1975 में, वो ना सिर्फ डेमोक्रेसी को हर्ट करने के लिए था, बट जुडिशरी को एक पपेट बनाने के लिए था?
मोदी जी से मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा